If you can stop working in your business and start working on your business, it will skyrocket. Right here, right now, draw the line in the sand. You have to be a good steward of your money because no one cares more about your money than you do. I want to show you how you can build wealth through your own debts and expenses. And that's something not a lot of people teach.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin Zaback Show. Appreciate you tuning in. Today we have a very special guest by the name of Chris Naugle. And you probably heard him before on like the Brad Lee Show or the Ryan Pineda podcast, the Cody Sperber podcast, which I just learned about this morning. But you might have also seen him as a pro snowboarder, which we'll get into. And also, I think I was watching the Pineda one. You just developed and launched like an app, which is super cool for investors and lenders. Am I saying that right? The
lenders and borrowers.
There you go, lenders and borrowers, which we'll get into, and then also obviously infinite banking and a bunch of other stuff. So I just appreciate you being on the show, man. I know that you're a super busy guy, and I appreciate you making the time.
Oh man, my honor and my privilege to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, dude. And I had my creative director. She was like blowing you up, and I think your assistant. She was like, "Hey, like we got to get Chris on the show," and then I was like, man, who knows Chris? And then our boy Devin, I was like, oh, I'll shoot Devin a text. And we got Devin in the house today too, which is super cool, man. We when we did the Devin one, we were talking about it before the show, but we posted, Devin was talking about, I don't know if you've seen the video, but he was talking about doing like Louis Vuitton and like going to like London or whatever, right? And buying like, nice stuff. And then the tax thing, when you come over and made a lot of people really mad, but we got a lot of views, dude, like 12 million.
Listen, haters need hugs, man. Devin is perfect at getting those haters riled up.
I love that, dude. I love that. Oh, man. So for people who don't know you, Chris, tell me a little bit about how do you go from, being a pro snowboarder, growing up to like getting into being an entrepreneur and then just kind of tell me your journey a little bit.
Yeah. So, I was always a worker as a kid because I grew up in a lower middle class family. We didn't have the luxury of just getting things. So if I wanted something, I had to save. And my mom was really good about teaching me that. I'll never forget, 14 years old, I'm working at my best friend's dad's farm. Like we're doing potatoes and tomatoes and all the stuff. That's just what I did. And then in the afternoons, we'd sometimes go over and we'd do the horse stalls and we'd do all the pig stalls. And you can, get your kind of head wrapped around that. But to me, like it was perfect. It put gas in the dirt bike, and that's how I got to work. So I was doing that. But then when I was 16, I remember, you kind of grow up when you're 16 because now you can go work somewhere. So I got a job at a restaurant, and I thought it was like my big boy job. I was so proud of myself. And the guy that owned the restaurant treated me so badly that I became, and I'm not even kidding, clinically depressed. Wow. My grades fell. I felt like I could accomplish nothing. I could do nothing right. I mean, this guy was just evil. He would send me out to the cooler to get something, knowing that thing wasn't in the cooler. I'd be out there for 10 minutes scrambling and sweating, so nervous because I knew when I got back, I'm going to get I'm going to get ripped into because I couldn't find what he saw. But he did this over and over. So one day I came in and he started right in on me, sent me into the cooler again. I know this routine. Sure enough, wasn't in there. And I came out and he starts ripping in and I just said, I quit. And I remember they had this heirloom, and I don't remember, I think I threw my hand, and it knocked the heirloom across the room, and it shattered on the ground, and that was my last thing.
Wow.
And I had thought this through so many times that I had a backup plan. And my backup plan, I was always, because I had to tell Mom, and I knew she was going to be mad. So then I said, Mom, I'm going to start a clothing line in the basement. It's going to be called Fat Clothing Company, PHAT. That's exactly what I did. I was 16 years old, printing T-shirts with my art teacher, Mr. Mahalski, and then I made a dozen shirts, sold them out of my backpack. My buddies came over and like, oh, I want to help you. Can I get a shirt? I'll give you a shirt if you sell a dozen shirts. And that's how I did it. I built the company from my backpack in school. And then, like, as I started making more and more clothes, I would go on the road to snowboard contests. And I learned that when I'm on the 90, which is the main drag to get you to Vermont, there's all these skate and snowboard shops. So I would stop at them and I would sell my clothes. So I started wholesaling. But I'll never forget this moment. This is a pivotal moment. I went into this one shop. It's called Hard Packed. And I remember I sold my clothes to the guy and I thought, all right, I'm just going to leave. And he says to me, you want to go snowboarding? And I'm thinking, okay, I kind of want to go home. It's a 3-hour drive home. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to, but I kind of got to get home. He's like, no, let's go right now. And I look around and I'm like, there's nobody else in the shop. Who's going to run the store? And it hit me. He owned the shop. He set the rules. He made his timetable. He just locked the shop and we went riding and had a blast. At that moment, I'm like, I need my own shop.
Wow.
And that set off that next whole vision. I created my first business plan. It's going to be called Fat Man Board Shops. This is just to put time into perspective. I'm kind of old. This was 92 when I started the clothing line, 94 when Fat Man actually opened, but Fat Man almost died.
Wow.
And my mom put her house on the line. You know, we didn't have much of a house, but it was worth about 80 grand. She put it on the line as collateral so that I could get that SBA backed loan. And I'll never forget it. November 94, man, we opened for the Christmas season, had a blowout season. And that's how I got into real estate. But so you can see, not real estate, business, but you can see the snowboarding and the business were parallel.
They were.
The shops would never have happened if it wasn't for snowboarding, and snowboarding just fueled everything else. So I did go on to become a pro snowboarder, and I had multiple shops. And I remember driving to my brand new boutique. Like, we were talking about like cool stores. I had one. We had just opened it up. It was in a ski town, and driving there, and on the radio, I heard a plane hit a tower. Now, you know, this is 9/11. But at that time, you know, we didn't know what it was. Oh my God, that poor guy ran his plane into the tower. Then another one. And that right there marked the first recession that I actually remember feeling the impact, because my stores dropped 30%. And this is how my transition into Wall Street happened. All I'd ever done is own businesses, work on a farm, and then snowboard. I wore hoodies every single day. So when I put my resume out, it fit on one page. Like, I think it even said the man. I'm kidding, but it was one page. Community college, like my business, and nobody called. Even Little Caesars turned me down for a job for delivery. But then I got these companies from Wall Street calling me up, and they're like, "Hey, can you come in for an interview?" And I'm like, "I don't know anything about stocks. Like, I don't know what this is." "That's all right. Just get a suit and just come in for the interview." And I'm like, "All right, this is my only option." Grandma took me out, got me a suit, and off I went. And that's how I got into Wall Street. And that would have been, I think 2003 was my first official year in the Wall Street business. And I did them both. It was a real mind shift, because you go from pro snowboarder to now wearing a suit every day. It messes with you. Yeah. I didn't feel comfortable in the suits. I didn't.
Did you ever think you were going to go pro in snowboarding? Like, how did you, were you just naturally gifted at that time? Like, when you know, here you are kind of running this parallel, right? You're running the businesses, and then I'd imagine you're going out and you're actually snowboarding all the time, right?
All the time.
And then, like, at what point did you pivot and actually go pro?
So I was at my local resort, Kissing Bridge, and I had heard that there was going to be these 2 pro riders showing up. So I made sure I'm there. There was really nobody else. They were coming to film. They were from Burton, and one guy's name was Blair, and the other guy was Shane. And I remember I was kind of like that creeper kid, right? I'm like hiding in the woods, and just a kid. And they're cruising, and I'm like following them down. I'd just ride up the lift, a couple back, and I kept doing this. Finally, Blair stopped me. He's like, "Hey, you want to ride with us?" And at that moment, I'm like, holy crap, I get to ride with a pro rider. But you know, that was the day that it sank into me that I could become a pro. Because prior to that, I'd never seen anyone from Buffalo become pro. Like, it was, you know, always Utah or Vermont or somewhere else. Like, you had to live somewhere else, because Buffalo's just hills, not mountains. But when I saw these 2 guys, both from my hometown, go pro, like super pro, I was like, I can do this. And that was the moment. That was when I just turned it on. Sometimes all we need to see is a path. We just need to see somebody else's blaze that path. And I had everybody. I went to school telling my friends I'm going to be a pro snowboarder. They all said, "You can't do that. You got to move." My mother always, you know, backed me. She always had my back. But my dad, no. Yeah. Everybody thought it was a silly idea, but no.
Yeah, dude, it's like,
happened.
To your point, it's like the 5-minute mile, right? You hear of, I always forget his name, but the dude that, you know, nobody had ever ran the 5-minute mile, you know, and then he goes and runs it. You know, everybody thought it was impossible. And then I think, you know, people can look it up, but I don't quote me, but I think, like, after he did that, right, there was like, over the next handful of months, there was like 90 people that ended up running the 5-minute mile. And the only thing that had changed was that people saw it was possible now, right? So to your point, you know, here you are, you see, like, man, these pros, they grew up where I grew up. They're from where I'm from, and look at them, right? That made you want to do that, right?
Yeah, and man, I worked so hard at it. I mean, I never really tell the story, so I'll tell it. You know, I didn't have money at that point in time. My mom barely had money to make things happen. So for me to go to the hill cost money. I had to get a ride there. Mom couldn't just take me. So there was this country club, you know, like a golf country club, and it was in a ravine, and it wasn't far from my school. So after school, I would have my mom drop me off there. Now, I only had about a window of an hour and a half to, 3 hours at most, depending on the time of the year. And she'd drop me off. And back then we had decent amount of snow. And I would basically in the sand traps, I would build jumps out of the sand trap, and I'd walk myself back up to the top, and I'd watch the VHS tapes of the pros, and I'd literally memorize the tricks, the motions, everything they did. And I'd go to the country club and I'd just drill it and drill it and drill it. And then I'd get tired. And I remember, like, I got to get this trick before dark, and I couldn't. So then at home, I would put heavy boots on, full snow gear, and I'd run up and down the backyard. And we had about a 2-acre lot. Yep. And I just ran so I could be in shape to get more runs at that country club. And I kid you not, like, that's why I went on to be such a good competitive rider, because I had tricks locked. And I didn't just have them locked. I got so detailed, like my hand had to be a certain way in the air. When I grabbed, I had to like kind of have the style, because Jamie Lynn had this style with it. Like everything was premeditated.
Hey, real quick, I just want you to do me a huge favor. If you're enjoying the show and you're enjoying all the amazing guests that we've been having on lately, then do me a massive favor and smash the like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe if you have not already. I would greatly appreciate it. It would mean the world to me, and we will be able to bring on a lot more big names if you help us out. Now let's get back to the show.
So that when I was in a contest, dude, I didn't think. I just went, and it just happened because I did it so many times.
Wow, it's so inspiring, right, for people listening, you know, because it goes back to the 10,000 hours, right? You do anything for 10,000 hours, then you could be a legend at anything, right? You look at the Kobe Bryants and the Michael Jordans of the world, and so many different people who they just practiced every day of their life. It wasn't that they were inherently gifted. I mean, maybe they had a gift, but you know, it still took that practice, right? Of every day going in the backyard, putting on the boots, putting on the gear, right, and running, you know, back and forth, right? And it's so fascinating because, you know, the majority of the people that I talk to, you know, on the podcast, they all had or have that similar mentality, right? Like, where do you think that came from? Was it growing up, like you were always a hard worker? I mean, because not everybody, I don't think, is like that.
It was a different era back then. Let's not forget that. I mean, I was born in '77, so back then, like, hard work was just part of like your upbringing, especially mine. But I think it was more than that. You know, one thing I'll say that I had as a child that I don't think a lot of kids have anymore is I had the gift to dream. Man, I had an imagination that never stopped. So when I'd get something in my head, it wasn't just like an idea. It was perpetuated. I would go to school on my Trapper Keepers. I would draw it. I don't care if it was BMX, skateboarding, snowboarding. I would draw it. I would visualize myself doing it all day long. And all night, I'd get the newest magazine would come. Back then, you know, we didn't have social media. So when that magazine came from your monthly subscription, dude, it was Christmas.
You're fired
and you
up.
just went through and you just studied them. And then those ideas came in. And then that was sometimes in the summer. And I'd have to think about that all summer long. I got a trampoline. My mom bought me a trampoline for my birthday, taped the edges of my board up, and I'd go out and I'd just bounce on the trampoline. I'd have the magazine on the ground, and I would just be like, I'm going to practice that trick. And I'd just practice the tricks all summer long. And so I think really what a lot of it was, because I wasn't a gifted like athlete. It's like I was no better than anybody else that steps into a snowboard. Matter of fact, the first day I went to a real hill, I vowed I was never doing it again.
Wow.
I couldn't do it. I sucked. And I sat in the lodge until my friend dragged me back up the hill, and I finally figured it out. So I had nothing that anybody else didn't, but I had an inner burning desire to just make it happen. And I've always had that for everything I do. I just go for it, and I don't listen to anybody.
I love that. And you said something, and I think it's fascinating. And then I want to pivot and talk a lot about, you know, all the different things that you do now, and you know, make sure we talk about infinite banking and real estate and all of the different things and Wall Street. But before we do, like you said back then it was a different era, right? And like, you know, do you think, because I'm curious, like that every generation now moving forward, do you think we're just progressively going to get lazier and lazier and lazier?
No.
Like, what is your vision? Like, what do you think will happen in the future? Because I feel like now it's different, right? I don't have kids, but you know, aren't these kids just like indoors all the time? Like when I was growing up, I mean, we were outdoors all the time, dude. Like now everybody's got a freaking iPad and they're like walking around. Like, what do you think it'll look like in the future? Because it seems like back then everybody was just a hard worker. It's what you had to do, right?
It is what
to
you
survive.
have to do. And it's just all you knew. I mean, that's what your parents did. So that's all you saw every single day. So I think, and I might be crazy saying this, but I truly think we're about to enter some really hard times. I think a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. I think we're going to enter a really dark period. And as we enter a dark period, just as if you look at history, hard times create strong men and women. We have had easy times for too long. My friend who's no longer with us, Stefan Arnio, wrote the book Hard Times Create Strong Men. And that book sums it up. It's cycles, it's patterns. Like, we've had really easy times for a long time, which is why these generations are the way they are, why they're lazy, why everything just seems to just, they think everything just gets handed to them. But when that doesn't, when their parents can't do it anymore, they'll start getting hard again, and they'll start working hard because they'll have to. Yeah. When you have to work hard just to put food on the table, it's a whole different dynamic, man. Working hard to buy the Porsche, the Ferrari, like, that's different. Working hard to just be able to eat, dude, that's a different mindset. And I think I'm not saying we're going to get there. Okay. I'm not doomsday or anything, but I think we're going to definitely be in hard times where people are going to have to get back to literally the reality of working harder than they've ever worked in their life because they have to, not because they want to.
I couldn't agree more. We had we did like our monthly team meeting this morning, and we had like 80 people in the office, and I had we run a mortgage company is one of the things that we're building right now. And my, one of our branch managers, I guess he's technically my buddy's branch manager, but anyways, he kind of manages and oversees our branch right now. And he came up there and was talking about interest rates in the real estate market, right? And he said basically the same thing that you're saying. He's like, look, everybody got so used to the last, 5 years, 10 years even, of interest rates being low and everything was easy and everything was affordable. And he put it like that, right? And he's like, now people have to wake up to this is the new normal, whether people like it or not, right? And you actually have to work hard to buy a house and to like, and he basically said what you just said, but in the context of purchasing a home, right?
He's absolutely right. I mean,
and it was awesome, dude.
Like, what we just went through, those low interest rates, that easy money, that's because the Fed printed $5.1 trillion during COVID. There was money everywhere, and it was so cheap. That wasn't real. Even though we want to think that was real, that was never going to last. I mean, come on. Really, you can buy a car, and all of a sudden your car goes up in value. When in your life has that ever happened? And if you actually thought that was going to continue, you're delusional. But what you were just saying, like now, 6-7% mortgages, that's the norm.
It is.
Like, we're just getting back to the normal. Like, and that's the scary thing for a lot of people because they think that's scary. This is the normal. Actually, matter of fact, this is still probably a little low.
We are. He pulled up a graph. He's like, when I was born, he's like, this is great in the grand scheme. He pulled it back like 20 years, and he's showing the team, right? And he's like, look, we're below the average over the last 2 decades. He's like, this is 100% normal, right? And I think a lot of the young people, he asked, my team, he's like, who's younger than 25 or whatever? And, I'd say a third of my team are on the younger side and 2/3 they're older, but quite a bit of them are younger, and for them, they just don't know any better, right? Because as soon as they got into real estate, the last 2 or 3, 4 years is all they ever knew. And so for them, I think it's a huge jolt. I mean, like they don't even, a lot of these people, they're looking at the market, they're like, what do I do? And anyways, I think it's fascinating. So I want to talk about Wall Street a little bit because,
are you sure you want to go there?
Dude, we got to go there for a minute, bro, because I think that'll segue into infinite banking, and then we can just keep going and we'll bounce around a little bit. But like, how in the heck do you go from doing the shops? I mean, I get that now you had that entrepreneurial mindset, right? Because here you see the guy who asks you to go snowboarding in the middle of the week or whatever, and then the next thing you get into that and you're doing your thing and now you've got that entrepreneur kind of mindset, but like, why Wall Street? And then like, what was your vision there getting into that game? I mean, like, it's just, you had to at the time?
No vision. It was a necessity. I wasn't willing to let my shops fail. And I had to pay bills. Like, I had basic bills. So I just needed, to me, it was like a bridge loan, right? It was just like, I just need to make a little bit of money for a little period of time till I can get back to what I would call the fantasy perfect world, like pro snowboarder running snowboard, skateboard shops.
Wearing a sweatshirt.
I was living like the dream. And when I got into Wall Street, it was always meant to just be this part-time thing. This like, I'm just going to do this for a little bit. And I remember I'd put the suit on and just to mentally get myself over it. So you probably have heard of the company Volcom. I always still wear their stuff. Well, Volcom made suits. So because I didn't feel comfortable wearing suits, I had the shops. So I remember I found Volcom suits and I got them so that just so I could feel normal. I'm like, I got a Volcom suit on. It's okay. I'm still a snowboarder. I'm not selling out to be Wall Street. But here's the thing. When I got into the office, I was pond scum. You've seen the movies, right? I was in the center. All the phones are ringing. My job, answer the call, connect one of these guys on. It was just like what you've seen. No different. But what I saw You see, I was part of this, they call it a new org. I was one of the new guys, you just get crapped on the whole time. But I watched these guys on the outside that made hundreds, if not maybe millions of dollars. And I watched them intently. They'd get there 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Wow. They'd leave for 2 hours on lunch. Watch this. I'm like, when are they ever coming back? I'm just sitting here ready to work. And then they'd be gone 4:35, 5 at the latest they were out. And I'm like, wait a second. If I want one of those corner offices, man, all I got to do is do what they're unwilling to do. I started getting there at 7. I got all my prep work done before the bell rang. Then lunches, when they went, man, I hit the phones. And guess what? People answered because they were on lunch break. They answered their phones. Then when everybody left, I got ready and I went out and saw people at their kitchen tables. I just went out in the field where everybody else was like, oh, I'll pound the phones and maybe have the clients come in. Oh, there's the conference rooms. People want to be talked to with their family at their kitchen table. I started doing that. I wasn't the only one doing it, but I did the most, man. I didn't have a family. I had a desire. And I finally, for the first time in my life, started making real money. My first year, I made 74 grand. Now, I know that doesn't seem like a lot. In 2003, for a 23-year-old, dude, I was crushing it. And I bought a house. And then the next year, I made over 100. The next year, I made like 150. And it just went north from there. So all of a sudden now, I'm like, I'm making real money. And I had articles in papers like showing like I'm in a suit, but I'm in my skateboard shop. I was making this transition. I was still trying to hold it together, but I was so used to working in my shop. But now I'm working in Wall Street. You can't work in your shop and in Wall Street. So I learned one of the most important things any business owner can learn. And I hope your audience listens. If you're going to get something out of this, like, yeah, we'll talk about cool stuff, but this is it. If you can just do what other people are unwilling to do, and not only that, if you can stop working in your business and start working on your business, it will skyrocket. I was forced to do that. I had to take guys that worked for me and I had to make them managers, which was hard because nobody could do anything as good as me in the shop. And that was a bad mindset. I grip skateboards the best. I tune snowboards the best. I folded shirts the best. But then all of a sudden I had my managers, and they did it better. And I saw this and I'm like, wow, I'm going to stop working in the shop and I'm just going to work on it. Marketing. I started making videos and we did a video production. It was the smartest thing I could have ever done. My shops skyrocketed in sales and I wasn't there.
Delegating is hard though for people.
That was forced. I would have never been able to do that if I stayed in my business.
But why do you think entrepreneurs struggle delegating so much? Like,
ego. It's the only word I have for it, man. You think nobody can do what you do. You think nobody's as good as you are. And maybe there isn't anybody that's as good as you, but there's somebody almost as good. And if you empower them to be better than you, then they will be.
Yeah.
Like I'd say, in some cases, Devin's better than me, but he learned from me. And that's the best thing. When I go from, being the teacher to being the student, I've succeeded.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, people don't want to let go, right? And they don't know how to let go. I think that's another one too. Like I think I've met people who I think get to a point where they're ready to let go, but then there's all this knowledge that they have. They got to figure out how to hire, how to train, how to actually like literally how to delegate. It's one thing to be ready to delegate. It's another thing to figure out how do I delegate, right? And I've screwed that up a million times.
We all have.
I mean, dude, like I've royally messed that up, and burnt, just, hired and fired a lot of people and like you have to go through it. But what would your suggestion be to that entrepreneur who, like, how do they shortcut that? Is there a way to shortcut that? I mean, are there books you can read or things that you can do to shortcut the learning curve?
Well, of course there's books and podcasts and YouTube channels, but I think the best way to do it is really just look at your business and look at the things that you do that somebody could be hired to do for less than you're willing to do it. And then just bring people in to start doing those little things. Stop thinking that you have to do everything. Like people mow their lawns and they hate mowing their lawns. Then why do you mow your lawn? You could hire someone for $20 an hour to mow your lawn. Are you worth $20? Because if you're mowing your lawn, you're admitting that's it. In your business, there's things that you could hire somebody at $20 an hour to do. And if you're doing it, you are literally admitting that you're only worth $20. And your mind doesn't know the difference. Until you tell your mind what you're worth, and here's the thing, your time has no value. It's priceless. When you put a dollar value to your time, you're already limiting the amount of wealth you can build.
So true.
your time is priceless. And until you start realizing that you can always make more money, but it will usually come at the cost of your time, and your time is priceless, that's when you'll start making the switch. You'll start realizing what the wealthy do. The wealthy don't work for money. Like, I don't even like to think that I work for money. Man, my money works for me. But I had to first work to then get the money. And then once I had the money, and I had small amounts, I'm not talking about a lot, because your audience is probably like, yeah, well, you had the money.
Easy for you.
When I saved my first 10 grand, I sent that 10 grand to go to work. That's one thing I've always done. Been a great saver. My mother taught me to be a good saver. And small amounts turned into bigger amounts, but it took time.
Yeah.
And I know I'm getting off topic, but one mistake this generation's making, and I think a lot of people are making, is they're all trying to get rich quick. And they're trying to act rich. If you're getting rich quick, you're going to be the next poor person. And I'm being totally honest. Your money will flee you. Wealth, the difference between rich and wealthy is wealthy means you have figured out how not to give your money back. When you can figure that out and you can actually practice what you preach, then you'll get my attention. But if you're playing the rich game just because you got the fancy shoes, the watches, the clothes, let me see your personal financial statement. You probably got nothing. But I make a lot of money. Until you don't, until you lose your job, until your business isn't making money, until things shut off. Then what? Then where are you? Your money isn't working for you. You're still working for money.
So true.
Sorry to get passionate.
No,
about
you're
that.
good. You should be passionate, you know.
If you've ever wanted to get into wholesaling real estate and you want to learn how to flip contracts and wholesale, right? Maybe you're brand new, maybe you've never wholesaled a deal, or maybe you're even doing a couple of deals a month right now, but you want to learn how to do more. Instead of joining my coaching program or somebody else's coaching program, we're actually looking to hire. So go ahead and message me 480-418-5339 and send me a text message opportunity, okay? So if you want to work with me, you want to work with my incredible team, you want all of our leads, you want all of our systems, all of our processes, everything, right? And I've done about 2,000 wholesale deals in my career, then go ahead, shoot me a text, 480-418-5339 and message me opportunity. And look, especially if you're in my state, okay, the state of Arizona. If you live in Arizona and you want to get into wholesaling, this especially is an opportunity for you, because you can come sit right in this office with my entire team and be a part of one of the biggest wholesaling companies in the country. I look forward to talking to you.
If you're somebody who wants to start investing, right? Like they hear you talk about that, but they want to do that, right? Like, and maybe they're either making good money right now, or they run a company. Like, where do they go? Where would you suggest that they go to start doing that? You know, to start investing, even if it is a small amount of money. Like, how do you go from making a bunch of money to building wealth?
There's 6 laws to wealth, and I don't want to get too deep into them, but they've been around since the beginning of time, and anyone can read The Richest Man in Babylon. It lays them out, but you probably won't be able to understand that book the way it's written. So I've come up with 6 laws that apply today. First, if you're making any kind of money, how much are you actually keeping of that money? And people don't understand that, so let me rephrase it. How much are you saving? If you're saving anything less than 10% of your gross income, you are failing yourself. You are failing yourself. Oh, but I live paycheck to paycheck. Oh, but I got to make more. Well, then go make more. Get a second job. Work weekends. I don't care what you got to do. Do it. Because if you don't, somebody else is, and you're going to be the one saying, I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda. Because the largest opportunity of all of our lifetimes is right around the corner. This recession will present itself very soon, and this recession will open the door for the biggest opportunities. 2008 will look like a pimple on an elephant's ass compared to what this is going to be, which means it's going to be an opportunity, but only for people that prepared for it. First step, you got to save, man. You got to save 10% of what you make.
You got to live below your means in order to do that too, right? Yeah,
100%. Yep. So skimp on what you're doing so you can save 10%. If you're anything less, then stop. I can't tell you anything more. The second thing you got to do is, as you're saving and you build up a little bit, that money's got to go to work for you. And I'll give you an example when we get into infinite banking, what it is, but I want to show you how you can build wealth through your own debts and expenses. And that's something not a lot of people teach because there's no money in it for them, but I want to teach that. So your money has to work for you. So you have worked for money and you've saved 10%. Second law, you make your money go to work for you. And we'll get deeper into that. Third law, you got to learn how to protect your wealth, which means you got to invest in things, only things that you know, like, and understand. So what is it that you know, like, and understand? That's what you put your money into. You don't put your money into crypto or Bitcoin or Ethereum if you know nothing about it. Because if you do, you're not going to have that money anymore. That's the simplest thing. So protect your wealth. Fourth law is don't seek unrealistic returns. This generation is terrible with this. They're always shooting, oh, I want the home run. I want the home run. Babe Ruth struck out more than anyone else in baseball. Yes, he was a home run king, but how many times did he strike out? You can't make it if that's how many times you're going to strike out. So hit base hits.
So
I
true.
tell people like how I built my wealth. I'm a professional penny and nickel picker-upper. That's what I do.
I love that.
So don't seek unrealistic returns or your money will flee you. The fifth thing is the most important thing. This is just how we all should live our life. You have to give. And you have to give generously. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, if you give, you get. Well, forget about the get. You give first. You give unconditionally. And if you don't got money to give, make people smile. Go out and make people laugh. Open doors for people. Do the little things. The universe will reward you and it will come back. Final, you got to create a legacy. And people are like, oh, well, I'm not dying anytime soon. Your legacy starts now. Your legacy isn't the money in the bank, isn't the car in the garage, isn't the house you live in. Your legacy is what you are remembered for when you're gone. How did you make people feel? How many people thanked you? How many people's lives did you change? How many problems did you solve? If you're not focused on any of those, you're never going to be wealthy. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
So then once you figured the laws out, each one of those then takes a different step and different methods of how you can do that. Investing, I put zero money in the stock market right now. And I tell people to get their money out of the stock market because it's about to go down.
And you worked in Wall Street for a long time.
Yeah, and I hate Wall Street. And I'll tell everybody Wall Street's one of the biggest lies you've ever been taught. Well, second to the banking industry.
And I want to dive more into that. I think was number 5, which is give. I'm a big believer in giving. You know, I've been on multiple mission trips. I've served. I've built houses. You know, I've done a lot of really cool stuff. Been in Nicaragua 3 times. You know, and I never ever give with the expectation of getting anything in return. And you end up getting a lot in return on accident, dude. Like every time I give, I'm like, I literally don't expect anything. And then just the freaking universe will just figure out a way to give it to you anyways.
Isn't that strange?
You know, in weird ways too. Like I'm not just talking about like just a pile of cash. I'm talking about like, you know, doors opening and things happening that you really wanted to happen. But you didn't even know that you wanted it. And just like, it's really cool, man. I think I really liked that you said that. And I just wanted to make sure that I hit on that really quick.
Can I just give a tactical thing? Because like, you know, it's great. We're talking about all these things and people are like, oh, well, how do I do that? Great. Here's how you give. This is how I did it. This is the easiest way. Every one of you get mail and you usually get somebody asking you for money, right? Oh, another one of these people asking me for a check. Stop saying it that way. Be grateful that you got that letter. You got that letter for some reason, which means you're somewhat successful. Take that letter, open it up, put it in a pile. And just when you have one of those days that things are just going rough, grab that, one of those in the pile, grab a checkbook. I know most people don't even use checks today. Get checks and physically write a check out to that charity. I don't care if it's for $1. If all you got is $1, write a check for $1 or 10, whatever you're feeling, mail that. Tell me how your day changes when you do that.
I love that.
It will.
Yeah.
And then, so when I get them, and Gabby hates it because I got this stack on my desk. And I'm like, Gabby, can you go through these and strip all the duplicates? And then I now have a foundation. So I write the checks from the foundation. But if I need to get cheered up, man, I just write a check. And people are like, you write a check to cheer yourself up? Yeah, I give. I give. I save an animal. I save a cat. I save an elephant. I mean, you can find the ones that you're passionate about. But that's how you start, man. It's that simple.
And when you're giving to other people, you can't be unhappy. Like I've learned that, right? Like I'll be unhappy or like I think I'm like depressed or something, and then I'll go serve. Because remember, when we're depressed, the focus is on us, right? So like I learned a few years back, like, you know, when I'm depressed or I'm unhappy, I'm just thinking about myself, right? When I start thinking about other people, I can't be thinking about myself because I'm thinking about them, right? And when I'm thinking about them and I'm trying to serve them and help them and give to them, then I can't be not happy. I by default, I have to be happy, right? And I think that's why they say giving is living, and, you know, like giving's the best thing you can do to be happy, you know?
It is. And I mean, we're made in God's image. I'm not going to get religious, but I mean, do you realize we're the only creatures on earth that have the ability to laugh? We're the only creatures on earth that can laugh.
Wow.
Just think about that for a second.
I've never thought about that. It's crazy. Yeah. And I love it. And I'm a man of faith too. And yeah, I totally agree. So really awesome stuff. So I want to dive into the Wall Street and the investing, you know, like somebody's watching right now. Okay. And they're like, okay, Chris, I understand what you're saying, but like, I don't know a bunch about any of what you're saying, but like they're following, right? Let's just say they've got 10 grand, 20 grand. Like how much money do they need to get started. And then, you know, you obviously said, you said something really valuable a little while ago, which was don't invest in things you don't understand, right? And the reason I love that you said that is because I think my generation is 100% guilty of, you know, you look at like the GameStop thing, right?
And
AMC, right? Nobody knew any. I mean, there inherently wasn't even really much to know, but like everybody and their mom threw money in that, right? And a lot of them lost a lot of money, right? Obviously, you know. So you hit the nail right on the head there. So then if they don't understand, you know, maybe real estate, or they don't understand, you know, like what should they do with their money, and then how much money do they need to start?
So they don't need a lot. I mean, like for what we do with the infinite banking, I mean, that's a good starting place, because you can't start investing until you've built a foundation. Like, you know real estate.
Yep.
When you build a house, what's the very first thing you lay down?
You have to pour the concrete.
A foundation. You put a foundation. If you build a house without a foundation, eventually it's going to fall over. So a lot of people build their investment like portfolio. They build their money house without a foundation. So the first thing you always have to do is you have to build a foundation. And one of the biggest things I teach is I teach people how to change just one thing. Literally, like, you want simple? There you go. Change one thing. And that is where your money goes first. We're just first start a foundation. So investing is an interesting thing. But if we don't change where our money goes first, we're always giving up control of our money. Most people, when they make money, they put it in the bank, and they leave the money in the bank because, oh, that's liquid, it's safe. You gave up control of the bank. No, I didn't. I can take it back. Not true. During the pandemic, you couldn't just put money in the bank and take it back. You had to get permission. You aren't in control of that money. Because if you were in control of the money, when you gave your money to the bank would have to call you and say, hey, Chris, I want to lend this money to Austin. He's going to buy this new Porsche 911. Like, can we lend your money to Austin? Did they call me? No, they just do it. I gave control to them to do that. And because I give up the control to the bank, and we'll hit Wall Street in a second, I gave up the opportunity to earn 400 to 1,300% more than what I do, because banks make 400 to 1,300% more than we do. And that is factual. Go to BauerFinancial.com and you'll see it. So then let's move to Wall Street. Let's move to investments. A lot of people are like, all right, well, what do they do? Well, my grandma told me when I was young, she said, Chris, when you get a job, the first thing you ask them, Chris, do you have a 401k? I'm like, all right, grandma, 401k, got it. I should write that down, 401k. All right, great. And then she said, but Chris, when you get that job, if they got a 401k, ask them if they match. Ooh, grandma, what's match? That sounds good. She said, it's free money. I'm like, ooh, I want free money. Match. So I got it down. The formula, 401k and match. So when I got at that Wall Street job, first thing, hey, do you guys got a 401k? Oh, yeah, we got one of those. Yes. Yeah. Next thing, do you guys match? Yes. Double score. And I started putting money in the 401k. You know what I did? I gave up control of my money. I was 23. I can't use that money until 59 and a half. Dude, how much time did I just lose? Oh, but Chris, the money's growing in the market. Or it's not when it's going down. But it's still not in my control. So I gave up my most valuable dollars. Because listen, your audience needs to understand something, especially right now. Now, this is a $2 bill, but just whatever, make it whatever it is. This $2 is worth the most it will ever be worth right now. Tomorrow, it's worth less. The next day, it's worth less. If the Fed prints more money, it gets down even more. So your dollars are worth the most today. Yep. So why in the world would you take your dollars and give them to a 401k, give them to a financial advisor, put them in some brokerage account where it's just going to sit there and hopefully grow? We hope, a lot of hope in that. Then someday later, 401k, 59 and a half, when we take that money back, we're so proud it grew, it doubled, it tripled. We take that money back. We're taking weaker dollars back. Not only that, but why did you put it in the 401k? Oh, grandma told me they give you a tax deduction. You don't have to pay tax on the money. Oh, that's sweet. Yes. Today is the lowest taxes I will ever pay. Your tax rates are going to go up. We're in the lowest tax. So 59 and a half comes 25, 10, 15, 20 years. I take that money out of the 401k. I get weaker dollars that are taxed at a higher rate. Who's winning that game?
And you had no
Not
control.
you,
Yeah.
because you gave your control up. And that's what you're taught in Wall Street. You're taught to do all the things that make people give control of their money up. That's what I did. I'm guilty. I did it for 16 years at a high level. Hundreds of millions of dollars through the firms I worked at. That's how much we managed. And all I had to do is tell people, give me control of your money because you're stupid. Give me your money because I'm smarter than you and because you don't know. And I'll look at these complicated algorithms. Look at this average rate of return we're going to get you, which is also a lie. Look at all these fancy graphs. Like, you could never do this. Like, you got to have me manage it. Folks, right here, right now, draw the line in the sand. You have to be a good steward of your money because no one cares more about your money than you do. So why do you give up control of it? I just teach people, take this money that you've got today, Change where it goes first. It is in your control. And then let's just look at the smartest financial companies in the world, banks. Okay, what do banks do? They move money. They lend money, right? So I give that bank money. The bank then takes that money and lends it out. And they pay me 3% and they lend it out at 6%. What did the bank make?
5%.
Well, they made a spread of 3%.
Right.
Because they paid me 3% and they earned 3%.
Sure.
And how much risk did the bank take to do that?
None. It's your money.
A little bit, but
Well,
not much.
sure,
right. It is my money. So, but they still have to, somehow.
There's risk.
We're not going to go there, because they can just go belly up and the government bails them out. But you get it. The bank used my money to make double what I made. And not only that, they took very little risk. And then they just do it again. The money comes back in payments. They send it back out. Then the money comes back in payments. They send it back out. And they keep doing this. This is how the bank does it. Why don't we just learn from that? Yep. Why don't we literally just take our most valuable dollars and just mimic the bank? Take back the banking function. Stop giving control to the banks. Do it yourself. Great. So I save money, but I change where it goes. And we'll talk about what this machine is. Now, see, I don't put my money in banks anymore. When I got money in the bank, these hairs on my hair stand straight up if there's a bunch of money in the bank. Some people are like, oh my God, look at how much money I got in the bank. I would say, you're stupid for having that much in the bank. But that's okay, because you don't know yet. Let's teach you. So I then take the money and I put it into my own bank. Now, we're going to talk about what my own bank is in this machine, but let's just pretend right now, I'm just going to tell you what my bank does that your bank does not. My bank pays me a guaranteed 3 to 3.25%, guaranteed for the rest of my life. No ifs, ands, or buts, and it never changes. Every year, I get paid a dividend on my bank. Yep, that's right. Every year, I get a dividend and guaranteed interest, about 5 to 6%, okay, depending on the company. Then my money grows tax-free. So when I put my money in my bank, that earnings that I did, no taxes. Wow. Not only that, I don't even need to report it to the government. It's 100% private. If somebody sues me because they slip and fall at one of my apartment buildings, they're not touching this money because it's protected against judgments and liens. And if I should die the next day, or I get in Devin's fancy fast car and we just test her a little too much and we don't make it, all right, that money that was in my bank is leveraged and doubles or triples to my family. So now my little girl, almost 3 years old, is taken care of. My family gets to maintain their lifestyle. Why? Because I changed one thing, and that was where my money goes. But now, let's have some fun with this. Let's just pretend this $2 is $2,000 bucks. Let's just use $2,000, right? I put $2,000 in my account. We already know what it's earning. We know it's earning it tax-free. We got all these great things. But now, I got to mimic what a bank does. And a bank moves money. Bank never leaves money sit. So I'm like, all right, what can I do with that money? I get a call from this guy, Austin, and he says, hey, man, I need $2,000 bucks. I need it to do this real estate deal. Yep. And I'm like, okay, I got $2,000 bucks. Austin, what are you willing to pay? And Austin says 12%. I'm like, cool. All right. So I take the $2,000 from my bank and I give it to Austin.
Yep.
I started with $2,000. I took $2,000. How much is left?
Well,
trick question, but what do you think your audience thinks?
The audience thinks 0.
Right.
But there's really $2,000 in there, right?
Correct.
Yep.
So I know that throws your audience for a loop. So remember, I started with $2,000, but now I just gave you $2,000.
How is there still $2,000?
How is there $2,000? Yeah. So now let's define what my bank is. When I made that one change, I did the same thing that the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Warren Buffetts, the Ray Krocs, I could keep going, the Pampered Chefs, the Doris Christophers. I could go through time. FDR, all of them did this, okay? I put my money in the oldest institutions that there are, and they are insurance companies. That machine where my money was is a specially designed, keyword, specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy. And I know as soon as I say that, whole life, what? Yeah. And that's what I said when I first heard this as an advisor. I'm like, oh man, you guys got bamboozled. That's a scam, man. Whole life's the worst place you can put your money. But the biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so. So how did I have $2,000, give you $2,000 and still have $2,000? Because I didn't use my money. You see, the insurance company made 2 promises: a guaranteed interest rate. I already told you about that. And they promised a death benefit. That was that legacy. But they didn't tell me I couldn't use the death benefit when I'm living. Matter of fact, they're perfectly fine if I do. So that $2,000 I gave you wasn't my money. It was the death benefit they're letting me use while I'm living. Because, hey, I don't plan on dying today. So, hey, you can have $2,000 in my death benefit. And the insurance company just loans that $2,000 to me. Keyword, loans the money to me. So that $2,000, the insurance company is going to charge me interest. But hold on a second, folks, you got to understand compound interest. The most powerful thing in the universe, says Albert Einstein. Those who understand it, earn it. I'm going to show you how to earn it. Those that don't, pay it. Those of you.
Eighth wonder of the world, right?
Bingo, eighth wonder of the world. Well, whatever he wants to call it. Yeah, it's Albert Einstein. I'll listen to what he says. So I just gave you $2,000. It was a loan from the insurance company. They charged me simple interest on that loan. Let's just say it's 5. My money, let's just call it 6. Simple math. I'm earning 6. I'm paying the insurance company 5. What's my spread?
You're making 1.
1, right? 1%. What was the bank making? 3. So I'm not doing what the bank was, but I'm still making a spread.
Yep.
But now because I got $2,000 here, that $2,000 next year is $2,000 plus the 6%. So the next year it compounds. Now I got more money compounding. So next year, same math. Okay, I'm still earning 6, but I'm earning 6 on a higher amount of money. So now I'm making a better cash on cash return on my money, but I'm still paying the same amount for that $2,000. My spread just went up.
Yep.
Next year, my spread went up. Next year, up. Every year for the rest of my life, as long as you keep my $2,000, for the rest of my life, I get a raise. And I didn't have to work any harder. I didn't have to work any longer. I didn't have to do anything different. It's mathematics, certainty. So now you're paying me interest on that. So now let's go to the second round. I want everybody to envision this. Picture a circle in your head. Okay, we got a circle. On the left side of the circle is where you're putting your money, specially designed and engineered whole life. We're going to take that money and we're going to move it around the top part of the circle. Okay. Over here is the opportunity. Austin, you're my opportunity today. You need $2,000 for something. $2,000, 200,000, 2 million grand, whatever it is. Okay. That's my opportunity. Now you're going to pay me interest. Because I got this really cool new banking system on the left side, which is this whole life, you pay me interest. Am I going to take that and give that back to their bank? Heck no, man. I'm going to complete the circle. On the bottom part of the circle is you paying me interest, and I take that interest and I put it back in my policy. But I put it back in my policy as a loan repayment. So now, not only am I earning a bigger and bigger spread, I'm paying that loan down with your money. So now my spread gets even bigger because the balance that I owe the insurance company is going down, which means I'm paying them less. I'm making more, and you're helping feed it. My money is in my full control. The circle is complete. It's like Apple's end-to-end control. I created end-to-end control with money by simply changing where it went first and following a process called the infinite banking concept, which is exactly what I just taught people to do. Let's go one more round, can I?
Yeah, of course.
So now some people are like, okay, yeah, but I got debts. Great. What's the minimum to do this? Take your age. I'm 45. Add a 0 to the end of it.
Okay.
$450. $450 a month would be my minimum. How old are you?
27.
Holy crap, you're 20. Dude, you are, folks, crushing it, man. He's 27.
I appreciate that.
270 is your minimum, okay? So that's where we got to start.
Okay.
If you can't do that, sorry, we can't help you. So now I start putting money into that specially designed whole life. But over on this side, my opportunity is not you borrowing money. My opportunities, dude, man, I made a lot of bad decisions. I bought those Gucci's, I bought those Nike SBs, I bought that Rolex, and I put it all on a credit card. The credit card charged me 20%, man. And I owe the credit card 20 grand and they're charging me 20%. I got to pay them $300 a month. How can I ever do this? How much can you save? Well, my minimum's $450. I could probably save $500. Great. So I save $500 a month. In a year, I got, let's say, 6 grand plus interest. So I then take the 6 grand, I move it over here and I pay off one of those credit cards. Let's just say one of them was 6 grand. So now one of the credit cards is gone and I paid that credit card $100. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be smart. I'm going to treat my bank's money the same way I treat any other bank's money. I'm going to be an honest banker. Since I paid off that credit card that I paid $100 a month, I'm going to take the $100 a month that I paid them, and I'm going to take that, and I'm going to just change the name on the check. Instead of writing Visa, Amex, or Discover, I'm going to write Chris Naugle or Chris Naugle's bank, and I'm going to send that money back over to my policy. It's the same dollars, right? I was giving $100 away. Now guess what I got? I got $100 every month more in my saving system. And now what else did I get? 20%. I just made 20% of my money. I recycled and recaptured the 20% I gave away. Isn't that the same as making a return? But it was risk-free. Now I just keep doing that. So now I take the $500 a month, plus I take the $100 a month that I'm putting in. It was new money that I just recaptured. I keep doing that. Now I move it back over. I pay off another credit card, recapture that. Do it again and again and again. And then I pay off my car. And my car was $500 a month. So now I recapture the $500 a month. And I just keep doing this until all of a sudden I got no debts.
Right.
But now all of a sudden I got $3 grand coming over to my bank every month, and I didn't have to work any harder. All I did is I got rid of all the holes in my boat. I got rid of all the debts, but I didn't cheat myself. You notice every time I paid off a debt, I took the money I paid that debtor and I put it back over here. I didn't make excuses. I was consistent and persistent in my actions, because if I'm going to be a banker, if I'm going to BYOB, be my own bank, I got to do what the bank does. In the bank, if you owned your own bank, you wouldn't steal from your bank.
Right.
Ever.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it's so powerful. So simple.
Why then do people have the misconception? Like, where does that come from? Is it bad sales guys
Dave Ramsay
out there? Yeah. For real though, right? Like, you know, where does it come? How come, you know, like even me, take me, for example, I have your boy Devin right on the show. And dude, first time I ever heard about it my entire life. 27 years. And I've done a lot of, I've built 12 companies. I mean, I've done some cool stuff, you know, and so I've been around a lot of smart people in my life, never heard of infinite banking.
Of course.
Right. And then boom, here I am. And I hear about it. I'm like, whoa, like, you know, like, and then immediately what are we taught, right? Growing, it's like too good to be true, right? It's got to be.
Term, and that's the difference.
Right. There's got to be, what's the catch, right? So like a lot of people out there watching right now, like they're probably thinking that if it's their first time hearing you talk about it, they're probably thinking the same thing I was thinking the first time. Now, obviously, I trust Evan, so I wasn't thinking it was too good to be true, but that was my natural instinct, right? Mm-hmm. So then what do you say to them? Like what do they got to do to wrap their brain around what you just said?
It's not easy. So I don't want to tell them what they got to do to wrap their head around.
Sure.
Let me just tell them why they don't know about this. And I'll tell it from personal experience. I spent 16 years in Wall Street. It was 14 years in Wall Street. I never knew what infinite banking was. Heck, I didn't even know you could design a whole life the way that we do, where it provides instant liquidity of your money. I had no idea that even existed. And I was an advisor. I knew what whole life is. I sold it. You know how I sold it? It's an expensive life insurance policy. Sir, ma'am, we should only buy whole life for that burial policy, because we want to make sure that if you outlive your term insurance, we've got policies in place that will pay for that funeral and the final expenses. But we're going to use term for the rest of that. And then you're just going to give me the term, the difference between the whole life and the term. And I'm going to invest that. And I'm going to charge you 1% to 2% on that money, right? Yeah. So why don't people teach this? In order for me to do what I just said, and I did say this several times, it is a specially designed and engineered whole life. Me designing the whole life for you, I have to take a 60 to 90% cut in my pay. So now let's frame this up. Why didn't your advisor tell you about this? How come your brother-in-law, your broke-ass brother-in-law, how come when he tried selling you life insurance, he didn't tell you about this? Well, number one,
he makes more money not telling you.
Yes. So if you do a regular whole life, let's just do the math, a whole life or an IUL. If you put money into whole life, let's use 10 grand. Okay. What do you think my commission would be on a regular whole life policy? Not the ones I'm talking about, but a regular one.
Couple grand?
$5,500,
wow.
55%. So that's not a bad day in the office, right? I go in, you give me 10 grand, I make 5,500. Man, I am partying. Okay. You put that money in an IUL, and there's a chance that 10 grand just turned into 12 grand for that advisor. Man, he ain't coming to work all week.
Yeah.
Anyway, so why is this different? Well, in order for you, so what I didn't tell people is you can put money in this policy and you can have immediate access to 60, as much as even 85% of the money in the first 30 days. There isn't a whole life in the world off the shelf that works that way. So we had to take one from the banks. Now, if you really want to know, study BOLI, B-O-L-I, bank-owned life insurance. Banks don't buy the same life insurance we do. They design it with the insurance companies. We just figured out how to do that. So when we designed the policy, we actually take one from Dave Ramsay. Dave should send me a thank you letter. Dave, where's my letter, buddy? Send me my thank you letter and a box of chocolates.
Come on, Dave.
You say buy term, you love term because it's cheap. I love term, Dave. So what we do, Dave, is we take that whole life that you so hate and we strip that whole life down. We take all the death benefit and we take it away. But you see, to put money in a whole life, the IRS says I got to have a certain amount of money in death benefit to support the amount I'm putting in. It's called the MEC 7 pay. So if you want to put 10 grand in, and I'm going to strip the death benefit down because I don't want to pay the insurance company, well, I got to find some death benefit so that I can put that 10 grand in. Dave, I called up that term insurance company. I said, hey, man, give me some of that term. And I put a term rider on it. So the majority of the death benefit is term. But that makes my policy super efficient because I got money going in, earning a guaranteed interest rate and dividends. I got a really low cost of insurance. Now I got a policy that has instant cash value, has a fast growth pattern, allows most of my money to work for me because my costs are really low. And the only differentiator there, I got to take 90% less in pay. So try that with your brother-in-law. Go to him and say, hey, buddy, I want one of those whole lives. He's going to be like, oh, man, yeah, I've been waiting for this day. And you're going to be like, yeah, I want a big one. I got 100 grand I want to put into that whole life. Dude, if he doesn't fall off the chair, you're lucky. He's like, oh, yeah. All right, I got the paper in my bag. Where's my bag? All right, here's the app. I'm ready. All right, wait, brother-in-law, hold on, man. I need you to do something, though. No problem. What do you need? I need you to design it so that you make 90% less, and I have 90% more to use today. Can you do that? Oh, man, they don't allow that. No, I know they do. Brother-in-law, I'm asking one more time. I need you to take 90% less. I need you to design it so that you make 90% less so that I can have 90% more. What do you say?
Right.
Now, we put him on the spot. He might do it if he knows how, but he has to know how to design it within the MAC rules and do it so that it works the way we do. Very few people know how to do this. So advisors don't tell you about this because ask any advisor. Hey, you want me as a client? Great. I need you to make 90% less money. No way.
Right.
There's nobody that wants to work for 90% less. People are probably watching this saying, well, yeah, Chris, why do you do it? because I figured the secret sauce out. Remember I said the laws, if you give, you get. I'm giving my commission up so that you get. And guess what that turned into? Over 7,000 clients in the United States. So even if I make 90% less, do the math, 90% less times 7,000, I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
But I'm serving people.
Volume game, yeah.
I'm serving people. So it all comes back to those 6 laws of wealth, and it's a simple circle, and all you got to do is change one thing. Folks, I don't understand why people don't use this. I don't understand how they can even think it's a scam. It's a freaking insurance policy used. Everything I just explained is not about the darn product. The product's just designed and engineered. Everything I just explained on how you build wealth is a process.
Sure.
It's moving money, it's finding opportunities, and being honest with your money and with your own self. That's it.
That's all it is.
Sorry I went long on that, but man.
No, you're good.
Broke a sweat.
How do people do that, the process part of it, right? Like, let's just say I'm like, okay, I get it. Chris, you explained it great, phenomenally, right? I totally understand what you're talking about. As a matter of fact, I'm going to call you up after the show and I'm going to invest, right? And then now you got the policy. You got I put my money in. I know I can, I understand the whole thing, right? How do I do the math? Like here I am watching the show, right? And I'm trying to figure out, okay, how to make money on the money, and then it compounds over time, and then I'm still making money over here. And they're trying to actually sit down and break down and do the math. Like, can they log in to their to their portal and look every month at where everything's at, and then they can just sit there on their calculator and do the math? Okay, well, I need to loan this money out. I need to make, if I'll go. I'll be a hard money lender, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. Like, how do they do that part of it? Does it get good over time?
Well, they could. Okay, they could get good. They could watch YouTube videos, but I mean, ain't nobody got time for that. So the way we built our company, if somebody comes to us and we build their policy for them, when their policy is issued, we looked at this like a bank. On the front end, you've got the loan officers. You got all the salespeople out in the front, right? They wear the fancy suits. They got the burnt coffee that they offer you. Like, that's who's out there. They give you the dumb suckers. You know those folks. They all say vice president. You know why they say vice president? How come everybody at a bank's a vice president? Who's the number one purchaser of whole life insurance in the world?
They all want credibility?
No. Who's the number one purchaser of whole life in the world? Banks.
Yeah.
Traditional banks. They are. Look it up. Bully. Okay. So if banks are the number one purchasers, a bank is a corporation. They can't buy life insurance. There has to be a body that's insured. The bank can't just insure anybody. They have to insure somebody that they have an insurable interest in. Oh, you mean like an executive? Yeah, I mean like a vice president. Yeah. Why do you think everybody's a vice president? Because the bank has to buy more policies and get more of their money moving through policies. Like, look it up. Like, I'm not making this stuff up. So I set this up like a bank. Front end, we got our loan officers. We call them money mentors, okay? They take the call. They listen to your needs and goals. And if you can't tell us what your needs and goals are, like, what are we building this policy for? Oh, I want to buy one of those policies. We get calls all the time, right? I watched the video. Which video did you watch? Well, I watched one on Instagram. You mean you watched a 60-second video and now you're ready to go? You think you got this mastered after 60 seconds? Okay, yeah, I want to buy that policy. Stop. Did you watch the 90-minute video that teaches you how to do the infinite banking process? Oh, no. Can you send that to me? Yes. The process is what matters, but that's the hard part, because people can buy a product. We can go buy sneakers, shirts, hats, but we got to learn a process. We got to learn how to do it. So when we did it, we got our front people that help you build the policy, but we understand your needs. Then we take your needs and goals and we send them off to what we call our implementation team, our mapping team. So when your policy is issued, which is about 30 to 60 days, and you fund it, now you're like, okay, well, yeah, now I want to do all that stuff you said, all that infinite banking. What was that called? Yeah, oh, great. Well, let's set up a call with the mapping team, and the mapping team is going to design your entire map. Think of a GPS, right? Yep. So when you get in your car and you want to go somewhere, you just put the coordinates in, and your GPS takes you there. Yep. But if you turn when the GPS doesn't say to turn, you get lost, or it recorrects you. We created that. The mapping team just has to know your needs and goals, and they will build how this works. And then all you need to do is follow it. Wow. Like, if you don't follow it, you're going to get lost. And then you're going to call us and be like, hey, this infinite banking thing doesn't work. No, it works. What'd you do? Oh, you stole from your bank. You mean you paid the credit card off and then I didn't know what to do. It said it right on the map. It said, take the $100 from the credit card you paid off and put it back into your policy as a loan repayment. Right. What part of that was complicated? Like, we gave you the map. Yep. Listen, I can't fix stupid, man. I can teach people everything. I can teach them how this works, but I can't fix stupid.
No, of course not. Dude, I love it, man. I think it's phenomenal. So when did you come up with the idea? Like, I guess, first of all, when did you when the heck did you hear about infinite banking? Like when were you you worked at Wall Street for 16 years, right? At what point did you say, man, I think I'm going to go do that over there? Like when did this whole thing come about?
It's a great question. I'm glad you went there. So I left a lot of my life out. So 2008, I almost went bankrupt. I was developing a strip mall for my retail stores and I almost went bankrupt. But after that, I watched my clients. Most of my clients were hurting just like I was. But there was some of my clients, the ones that didn't give me much money, that were making bank. And guess what they were in? Real estate. They're all real estate investors. And I knew some of them really well. And I started talking to them. I'm like, what? How are you guys doing this? Man, real estate's cheap. We're just buying and we're making a ton of money. Rents are going up. And I'm like, all right, I need to do this. 2009, I started buying real estate, apartment buildings, pennies on the dollar, and did that through 2014. And then in 14, I almost lost it all again. Over leveraged, had a bad bank, do some bad dealings with me, pulled my lines of credit, and that was it. Sold everything. So how did I get into the infinite banking? I knew real estate, but I knew I needed to learn how to do it. So I paid for an education course, 30 grand, and I didn't have it, man. I was that credit card swipe, and then you want a refund. We all know that feeling because we've done that. But I did that. And me and my wife went through it and we started flipping houses. We started flipping a lot of houses. But to flip a lot of houses, you need a lot of money. And man, I didn't have it. I was next to broke. Okay, we've all been there. So a lot of people are like, oh, you can only get into real estate if you got money. Wrong. So I found some people that had some money. This guy, Mike, he had a show on A&E. And I remember I was in Salt Lake City snowboarding, and I called him up and said, hey, Mike, I got a deal. Can we meet out? Sure. Met at Cheesecake Factory, downtown Salt Lake. I'm explaining the deal. And finally, I just said to him, I said, Mike, so how do you lend all this money? Yeah. And he says, I lend from self-directed IRAs. I'm like, yeah. And I lend from my banking system. I'm like, wait, all I heard was bank. And I'm like, wait a second, Mike, you got a bank? My mind's going nuts. I'm like, I thought this guy had money, but I had no idea he had that much money. Dude, why are we at Cheesecake Factory? Let's go to your bank. Like, let me see your bank. He's like, no, I don't have a bank. I created a banking system. I'm like, tell me about this. What do you mean? Well, I started putting my money into this specially designed whole life, and I'm like, whoa, Mike, you're talking to Chris, the advisor, Chris. Like, whole life, dude? That's the worst place you could put your money. Who bamboozled you? You got scammed, dude. I don't even know what you're talking. And he's like, whoa. He leans into me. And I kid you, I could never duplicate this face. So serious. He says, Chris, if it doesn't work the way I just told you, how have I been lending money these last couple of years to you this way? I sat back and I'm like, whoa, okay. All right, Mike, show me how to do this. How do I do it? He's like, well, I can't. I learned from this guy, Brent. I said, give me Brent's number. And he did. Slid it over on a napkin. Ended lunch really quick. Forget about the money. I'm Mike, we'll meet another time about the money. Like, you don't got a bank. Let me learn how to create a bank from this Brent guy. Call him up, and I'm just blender with the top off. And Brent says to me, he says, Chris, hold on. Thanks for calling. Mike's a great guy. He's a great client. Did you watch the 90-minute video? And I'm thinking, what 90-minute video? What? Nobody said anything about a 90-minute video. Brent, ain't nobody got time for that. He says, I can't talk to you until you watch the 90-minute video. You love this one. Yeah. Devin's here in the studio with us. He knows all about this. So finally, I went on a Sunday and I watched the 90-minute video. And I swear to you, that video changed my life.
Wow. That
video right there showed me exactly what I just told everybody here, but they all should watch the 90-minute video too, like I had to. That video changed everything. Because after I watched it, I knew the formula and I just had to do it. And I did. My first policy, look, I didn't have a lot of money. $230 a month. That was my first policy I did. Wow. And then it was like $550, and then it was like $7 something. And I just ramped up. I have 9 policies now. Not because I want 9, but because every policy represents another step for me to put more money into my banking system. Because each policy is limited, right? There's a max and a minimum for what we can put into them. So that's how I learned about the infinite banking concept. Yeah. And I just never stopped working at it.
And you got out of Wall Street at that point. You were out. Well, you went Wall Street real estate, building the multifamily and the development buildings for the store, right? To infinite banking, because you learned from this guy. You go and you have dinner with the guy.
So there's a lot of overlap. I know our brains want to think that each one of these is a separate thing. There's a lot of overlap. Like the snowboarding and the Wall Street thing happened at the same time as the stores, right? That was all one period. So what happened 2018? So actually 2015, me and my wife got this idea to do a TV show. So we started filming a sizzle with my buddy Kyle, who used to do my skateboard shop. He was one of my managers. And we made our first sizzles. It was like Jackass meets Flip or Flop. That was the concept. We sent it out to all the stations, HG, A&E, and they all said no. It was too out of the box. So we found another producer that came in and said, hey, we love you guys. You got great charisma. I think we can do something, but we got to fit the square box. And here's what HGTV wants. They want a husband and a wife, and they want a crazy friend or contractor that can do it. And I'm like, we got that, Blair. Remember Blair?
Yeah.
I talked about that pro snowboarder. Blair is crazy. Blair is a contractor now. Blair was part of this show. So we went on this venture to start this TV show, and it was literally several years of our lives. But in 2018, we got the break. Risky Builders was the name of it. You guys all Google it. Google HGTV Risky Builders. You'll see the show that me and my wife did called Risky Builders, and it aired 2018 6 times. So now, how did I get out of Wall Street? When that show got approved, I had to go to my compliance officer in the firm, and I had to say, I can't remember her name, but let's just pretend it was Jen. Jen, I know I got 16 other OBAs, outside business activities for all my real estate stuff, but I got one more. Sweetie, we got the show. Like I was joking with her, trying to schmooze her up. We got the TV show. She's like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. Because I knew her pretty well. I was on the phone with her all the time. And I'm so happy for you. And I'm like, yeah, I just need one more OBA. And she says, Chris, I can't issue an OBA for that. Chris, you got to make a decision. Are you going to be a financial advisor or are you going to be a TV show star? Duh, I'm going to be a TV show star. So I went to Mike in my office and said, Mike, you want to buy my practice? We did. We struck a deal. He actually still pays me. Actually, I got to call him. He owes me some checks. But anyway, that was the end of Wall Street. Wow. I literally burned the boats right then and there. I was out of Wall Street. I was the real estate guy. And then that dreaded phone call came that one night.
If you've ever wanted to get into wholesaling real estate and you want to learn how to flip contracts and wholesale, right? Maybe you're brand new, maybe you've never wholesaled a deal, or maybe you're even doing a couple of deals a month right now, but you want to learn how to do more. Instead of joining my coaching program or somebody else's coaching program, we're actually looking to hire. So go ahead and message me 480-418-5339 and send me a text message opportunity, okay? So if you want to work with me, you want to work with my incredible team, you want all of our leads, you want all of our systems, all of our processes, everything, right? And I've done about 2,000 wholesale deals in my career, then go ahead, shoot me a text, 480-418-5339 and message me opportunity. And look, especially if you're in my state, okay, the state of Arizona. If you live in Arizona and you want to get into wholesaling, this especially is an opportunity for you because you can come sit right in this office with my entire team and be a part of one of the biggest wholesaling companies in the country. I look forward to talking to you.
Our show didn't go on to series, man. So wow. That's how I got to where I'm at now with teaching money and doing the infinite banking and helping tens of thousands of people do this, is because when you burn the boats and all of a sudden something doesn't work, you got to pivot hard. And that's how I did it, man.
So then where did you come up with the idea for the app, what you're working on now? Because now you're doing
we're doing the whole gamut here today.
Yeah. Well, I like it though, right? Because it all ties in, it's money, right? Yeah. And you're the money guy, so like where does that come about in the journey? Like now, here you are now, okay. The show doesn't work out, which I'm sure was really tough at the time, right?
Yeah, devastating.
Devastating. And, but obviously that opens the door for where you're at today, which is a big blessing, I would imagine, right?
So the app and the website, it's called privatemoneyclub.com. How did that happen? So simple. I was doing infinite banking. I'd paid off all my debt. All my cars were financed through my policy. And just so your audience knows too, if you use this system and you buy cars this way, you will get all the money back for all the cars you ever buy, drive, and own. If that's not enough reason to watch a 90-minute video, I don't know what is. But anyway, so I'm doing all this and I have no debts, but I knew real estate. Greg Hurling, who's a dear friend of mine and one of my business partners, said to me when I first met him, he said, the ultimate in real estate is being the bank. I had no idea what that meant then, but I do now. So I said, all right, I got to lend money. So I know it seems easy in your mind. Oh, I'm going to go lend money. Great. Take a lot of money and go try to lend it out and try to keep it in constant movement. Like one deal goes out, like, got it all out there. Then it comes back when the deal sells. And you're like, crap, now I got to find another one. There's only so many Austins, only so many Devons. Like you run out of people. So then I started thinking one day, and me and Steven were sitting at a bar and we're on a napkin. And I'm like, you know what? Why isn't there a dating site? Because I knew how dating sites worked from when I was a snowboarder. Why isn't there a dating site for money? Like literally, there's only 2 types of people in the world. There's people that have money and there's people that need money. Tell me I'm wrong. That's the only 2 types of people we have. Haves and people that need. But they both have a problem. People that have money have a problem that they want to make more. Okay, and people that need money, well, they need money to make more money. So I'm thinking to myself, this is kind of like, well, dating sites got guys and girls. And then they create a platform where all the other guys and girls are with the same similar needs and goals, and everybody just puts it into a profile. And then all of a sudden there's this chat in the middle. Don't ask how I know all this. There's this chat in the middle, and it's a really fun process, and you have a ton of fun. You end up wasting tons of time doing this. And all of a sudden, and by the way, folks, I'm married. This is a long time ago. And I said, I just got to create the dating site for money. So I did another one of my circles. In the middle, I put community and connection. On the left, I put people with money. On the right, I put people that need money. Two sides of the coin. And all I did is I created the edge of the coin that brought the heads and the tails together. Private Money Club is literally just a dating site for money. And I don't have my phone, but think of this, like the app is just like Tinder. Now, I know your generation knows Tinder. I didn't grow up with it, but swipe left, swipe right. Pretty simple, like swiping through a bunch of different people, find one like, whoa, swipe right, and now you're connected if they choose to connect with you.
Sure.
So I'm like, all right, why can't real estate be like that? So if I'm a guy that's got money, if I'm a lender, I can just go through all the deals in Private Money Club and I just swipe through them. I can be driving in his R8, Devin's R8, I'm driving and I'm just swiping. He's saying, keep my eyes on the road. Well, you just swipe then. Swiping through, we find one we like, we swipe right. Connected. Okay. If I'm a borrower and I need money, I'm swiping left through all the lenders. Oh, this guy's got, that guy's got 250. He's looking for 12. I could do that. Swipe right. Connected.
Wow.
That's it.
I love
that. It started with that. That's it. So simple.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it was awesome until I learned what the legal environment was like. But yes, we have created the first dating site for money and it is just blowing
You
up.
Got around all the legal? You figured it out.
Took almost a year and a lot of money, but yes, we figured the legal out. There was, in the first launch of it, there was 16 states we couldn't do business in. And what I mean is 16 states would not allow a borrower to post a deal. Lenders can lend in any state they want. But now we found a workaround for that. So now the forum allows us to have anybody post anything. And then we're expanding. I mean, we're going to have accredited investor pages on there. It's going to be an open forum where anybody can come in. Right now, it's to get in Private Money Club. We made it so that there's a bundle. You have to go through a coaching program because we only want people that know how to do this. We don't want a bunch of yahoos. So the only way to get in, if you want to actually do it, you can go in and window shop like the red light district. I mean, that's free. But to actually do it, you got to go into the coaching program. It's called the Accelerator. And we give you the membership with that. So now you're learning, but you're applying the knowledge immediately in the platform. And then we teach you either how to be a good lender or a good borrower, all the rules of engagement, all the best practices, and giddy up and go. And so far, oh gosh, I don't even know how much money. Probably.
I was going to ask you how much money.
100 million is probably transacted through there. We have 4,300 members now.
Wow. And
climbing every day, and it's just expanding, and we're doing some really freaking cool stuff in this next wave. So that's my exciting thing. But really, why did I create it? Dude, I had a problem. I had money, and I didn't know how to make that money go to work for me. That was a problem for me, and that's a problem. So I created the place where my money can go to work forever.
Right.
Private Money Club.
100%. Yeah. It almost reminds me a little bit of like a Shark Tank kind of in a way, you know. What's like some of the coolest deals that have gone through there, just out of curiosity? Like, do you know a couple off the top of your head?
So many good deals. Like, there's so many right now. Just the other day, a guy posted a deal. His name's Bo. He posted this tiny little house in a really great neighborhood, and on it says, I can't remember his title line, but it was great. 16% interest, first lien position, 50% LTV. Dude, I salivated. I'm like, what? 16% you're going to pay me. I'm going to be first lien because, listen, I practice Talladega Nights terminology, right? Daddy said, son, if you're not first, you're last. That's how I lend. First position. First position, and it's 50% loan to value. Dude, the best thing that can happen is Bo doesn't pay me.
Right.
Like, Bo, please don't pay me, man. Please don't pay me.
Default.
I'm going to give you the 100. It's worth 200. Even if you don't do the renovations, it's worth 150. Dude, don't ever pay me.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to foreclose. And I tell people this, and they're like, oh, foreclosure, that takes forever. No, we're only talking commercial deals. You know this being a mortgage, but we only lend to entities. We don't lend to individuals for primary houses. It's just entities. So when you don't pay me, man, there's no judge or court or lawyer out there looking out for the corporation, man. I'm foreclosing on the property. I don't mean to be a jerk, but hey,
that's the reality of it.
Yeah, pay me my money, you know, that you promised on the note and the mortgage, and we're gonna have a good relationship.
100%.
So that was a cool deal.
Win-win.
Oh gosh, there's a
Are they all real estate deals?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's going to be changing soon. So pretty soon we're going to open it's going to be like Craigslist. There's going to be all sorts of things, business opportunities. There's going to be car loans. There's going to be equipment loans. There's going to be all sorts of stuff you can do.
The business opportunities is really cool. I like that.
It is. Is
that complicated to get to?
It's complicated because for like syndications, private funds, business deals, we really have to have our RIA because we're partnered in an RIA, a registered investment advisor. They have to do a due diligence package on them to make sure that there's no scams. You know, we're not doing any due diligence on the deals. It's an open concept, right? So when you come into Private Money Club, you get coached, but we're not we're not doing due diligence on these deals. Do your own. You learn how to do
You're the
this.
platform.
But the syndications and the business deals, we do have to do some due diligence to make sure it's legitimate, make sure it's actually filed with the SEC and registered as a Reg A, Reg D, any of the followings. And if it's a business deal, we have to make sure that it's done properly. So we would have attorneys in there, and the RIA would basically help with all that.
Yeah.
But that's not there yet. We're getting there. Right now, it's just real estate. Probably the funnest deals are the development deals. We got a big developer, ROI Properties. They develop massive tracts of land, and they got all the relationships with the big D.R. Hortons of the world. So they came to me. I met him actually at a mastermind, and he said to me, Chris, so, we get our money from institutions. Like, we don't have problems getting money. And I said, but let me try to raise money for you. I got these private investors, like, you could just tell he's just like, yeah, all right, we're stuck in this mastermind. I got to listen to you. And I'm like, just give me a shot. He has raised $25 million, and it hasn't even been a full year so far.
Wow.
And his deals are wild. Like the newest deal, Marlboro cigarettes.
Yeah.
So the Marlboro man, we all know that. Well, he's gone, but his kids aren't. His kids own the land, and Rob and Nicole, the owners of this development company, they just bought the Marlboro plot in Colorado, and they're developing it. It's so fun what they're doing. Yeah. So I lend a lot of money to them now, and that's probably one of my favorites. I'm not, saying it's a good investment or making any suggestions or recommendations, just where I'm putting my money. Sorry, I got to protect myself a little
you're
bit.
good. Yeah.
But they pay, depending on, there's different tiers, anywhere between 12 up to 15% interest. So it's a good day in the office.
Yeah. At what point did you realize, was it in 2014 when the banks that you were buying the multifamily from pulled the lines of credit like you were talking about earlier, that you realized that there was as much money in giving the loan as there was buying the real estate?
No, I didn't learn that then. I learned that in like 2015 or 16. I was trying to get in the good graces of Greg, and he owned a self-directed IRA company. He's the one that said, the ultimate in real estate is being the bank. So I started kind of learning about that from him. And I also started learning because we were doing 20 flips a month. So I was borrowing stupid amounts of money. And I'm like, man, the only one that ever makes any money in these deals is the freaking borrower, Greg and Mike and all the guys that was borrowing money. So I'm like, when I started to get some money, and we sold off most of our real estate portfolio the last couple of years, now I got a bunch of money, and now I just lend it. So, it was just a different cycle. So first, I was on the one side of the coin. I needed money, and I had to pay a lot to get that money. And now I'm on the other side of the coin where I have money, and I just lend it out and I make money.
Sure. Yeah. We wholesale a lot. So I don't know if you're familiar with wholesaling real estate or not, but we're
tremendously familiar.
Yeah. I want to say there's really no way to track it. I've actually got a buddy working on a way to track all this. But I want to say we're like the second biggest in the nation in terms of wholesaling. But, we flip paper, right? Which is really cool, but I'm always the guy where I'm like, man, like we sell good deals all day long, right? We turn and burn quick too, I'll bet you, I wouldn't be surprised if we've done 3 or 4 deals since we've been in the podcast,
I wouldn't doubt it.
Nationwide.
But you probably should have taken some of those good deals down. And the only reason wholesalers don't take deals down is because lack of capital or quick capital. Well, Private Money Club fixes that problem pretty
100%. Yeah. But I also love just in general what you're doing in terms of just all the infinite banking and everything like that, because, our relationships are ridiculous, and the amount of people that we know, and there is a lot of money flipping and doing all that, but I'm not a big flipper. We flipped a bunch. I probably flipped.
It sucks.
I mean, dude,
it sucks. I'm sorry. I mean, I flipped 200 and what have we done? 264 houses, I think, to date, and I hated every one of them.
Yeah, you flipped more than I have.
I don't think there was ever one that I actually truly enjoyed until I actually got the freaking check, and I'm like, all right, it was worth it.
Yeah,
it really wasn't.
Flipping's tough, right? And I think, do you think there's any for people watching, like, is there a time or a place where people should go flip a property? Like, should that ever be a part? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, you wouldn't be where you're at today had you not gone and flipped the 20 homes.
No
like
way.
all of that was a part of your journey.
Underwrite deals?
You wouldn't, right?
No. How would I know how to look at another flipper's deal? But really when I lend, I underwrite the person first. So I look at, like I would look at you, I'd look at your personal finance. I want to lend to you. Then I'm going to look at the deal second. But the deal's always second. But if I didn't do all those houses, I wouldn't understand the process. I wouldn't understand what can go wrong. And I wouldn't understand when somebody comes to me and says, oh, my house is worth $200,000. I want to borrow 150. And realistic, it's not worth 200,000. It's worth 120. You're borrowing 150 because you don't want to come out of pocket with any skin in the game. So I'm the lender. You want me to lend 120% of your deal or whatever it is. So you got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I needed to learn how to do it.
Underwriting's huge. Underwriting's the one thing where even in our organization, we probably underwrite. I'll bet you we underwrite more deals than anybody in the nation right here in this office. I really say that with confidence. Because we wholesale a lot of wholesalers deals too. Like we do a lot of freaking deals, you know. And dude, underwriting is like there's two dudes in my office. They're both partners of mine. That underwrite all the deal. I can underwrite too, but I not anymore because I just don't have the time right now to sit there and underwrite. But I mean, dude, they freaking underwrite like crazy. It's a hard thing to teach.
It is.
You know, because
you almost have to just do. You know, you can't just teach somebody. They actually have to get in the trenches and actually do it.
100%, right? And every market is different. I mean, you have to have a lot of EQ, you know, emotional intelligence. I mean, you know, it's not all IQ too. I mean, like you have to understand people and you have to, there's so many things you have to understand, I think, when learning how to underwrite. But the reason I was curious is because, you know, a lot of people watching right now, like, you know, I always tell people start with wholesaling and then get into buying property, flipping, whatever, right? Wherever they want to go with that. But you could start wholesaling and then take that wherever. But then now, you know, when I think about it, I'm like, man, you could start wholesaling to make the cash, right? Because like you're talking, you got to have some cash. You got to make some cash in the beginning, right? And then you can get the cash to start working for you. So the infinite banking can almost come in. It's like, hey, look, you know, go out and learn. Because with wholesaling, you got to learn how to underwrite too, right? So the best wholesalers in the game are just good underwriters. They know when a deal is going to sell to an investor, right? Because like we don't send out deals that aren't going to sell. I mean, it's what we're known for. We're known for sending out deals that sell, right? So people know us like, hey, if they sent out a deal, it's a good deal, right? And a lot of wholesalers send out garbage. So, you know, get into wholesaling, learn that game, make that money, save the money. Like you're taught, you said 10%.
Law number one.
Right? Law number one. Okay. And then hit you up, right? I guess that would be the next to watch the 90-minute video.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to watch that 90-minute video. Don't call us if you're not watching that 90-minute video. We'll hang up on you.
Where do I find the 90-minute video?
Just go to my website, chrisnaugle.com. And then, you know, as soon as you're on there, it'll pop up. It'll say watch 90-minute video. It's 90 minutes or a 10-part video series. Because if you don't have some people don't have the attention to sit through 90 minutes. So there's 10 parts. But you watch that and then you just click a link and schedule a call and we find out what your needs and goals are, and we solve your problems.
I love that.
That's all we do.
Yeah, I love that. What does the future look like for you, Chris? Like, what now? Like, what are you working on now?
So it's a good question. The future's changed a lot for me. So my future now is a lot about my foundation, teaching my daughter the principles of money and how to be just a good human being. So a lot of my focus is going to that. But from a business standpoint, YouTube is a massive focus. I mean, I do it every day. I got full-time people that just run my YouTube, just giving. Because that's all giving, right? I'm just creating content, one piece every single day, and I'm putting videos out teaching this concept and lots of other things, but this primarily. And I just keep doing that. So my future is a lot more of that, building my organization, building money mentors and getting more people and just kind of building that agency up. But, you know, I'm not in a rush to build the agency up. I want the right people, and I want my people to make a lot of money because they're all doing the right thing. Yeah. So I think those are like the things on the infinite banking side. Private Money Club, it's a simple goal. I know that business. I know what it is, and I know it's a first of its kind. So I'm building it. It's going to be millions of dollars. I'm going to lose money probably for 3 years building it. But when it's done, I'm going to control the flow of billions of dollars of money without ever touching a nickel. Who do you think wants to control billions of dollars? Right. Banks, Wall Street firms. So I'm going to then just dangle the carrot. Come on, boys. Bidding is going to start at $350 million. And actually, you think I'm joking about that, but you guys all know the story of Jim Carrey, right? Uh-huh. So let me just show you here. The deposit ticket, right?
I love that.
Deposit ticket. What's it say on there?
October 14th, 2028, $350 million. Christopher M. Naugle. I love that, dude.
So what's my future? Selling Private Money Club.
I love that.
Anything north of $350 million. And then I get to spend my time just literally teaching my daughter how to run a foundation and how to go out and give.
You had to create an extra field because the most you could go here thinks like
I did.
Yeah, you created a couple extra fields. I wonder why they don't do them that big.
Well, the other thing is, I would never put that much money in one bank. It would be spread over a series of different community banks, and then as soon as it hit the banks, I'd get the money out of the banks into my own banking system. You guys have already learned how to do that. So.
Sure. Let me ask you, Chris, how do you juggle it all? Like for people watching right now, like what do you do every day that allows you to remain sane and calm and how does that look for you?
So it's tough. I get up 5:30 every morning, go to the gym. Richard Branson, I remember my friend telling me a story, like one of his most important things for his entire executive team is to work out because if your body's not healthy, your mind's not healthy. So I always do that. Nothing like this guy over here, but I've got an idol that I'm looking to kind of work up to that point. So I work out and I go to the office, and the first thing I do in the office is I got a cat at the office. I play with, like, his name's Lazy Cash. I play with the cat for a little bit, just get my head right. And then I just dive in, man. And I have no windows in my office. We have an 8,000 square foot facility. So when I get into work mode, I don't stop. And the problem is I am a workaholic. So I'll go in and start my day at 6:37, and I don't leave till 7, 8 at night. And I don't even know where the day went. I don't eat. I just drink shakes all day long, and I just plug through it.
Yeah.
So how do I do it? That's how I do it. But that isn't always how I'm going to do it, because I don't like doing it that way. Because, I learned enough about money to understand that it's not about the money. But I also am so excited about the things I'm building right now that I just can't break free from that.
Yeah.
It's like almost a bad drug, man. I'm building these awesome things. I'm getting the testimonials from people. I'm hearing their lives being changed. It's like, how do I disconnect from that? The only answer is my daughter. That is my only way I'm ever gonna be able to kind of pull out of that.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I'm just in the vortex, man, and I can't get off the train.
How does your wife deal with it? Like, how do you guys, because a lot of people watching, like my fiance, she works with me, right? And I'm just like you, I'm a total workaholic, I'm doing 75 hard right now because I went through a season, and I'm still going through a season, but I'm just trying to do 75 hard at the same time. And I've been through a lot of these seasons where I'm just in grind mode, bro. I mean, I'm the first in, last to leave, just like you. I've got some windows, but in my office, I know I could see the sun go up and the sun go down, but I walk in when it's dark and I walk out when it's dark,
Same
right?
here. Same here.
And, and it can be challenging in a relationship. So, like, how do you navigate that?
In a relationship, we set date night. So we have a mandatory date night, and now we have ice cream day. My daughter loves ice cream. So now we always go out for ice cream. So now, like, those two little things, listen, sometimes a relationship doesn't need a ton, just needs undivided attention during those times. So I do that. When I come home, I don't care how late it is, I try to be present. I try to be in the now. I fail at it. I'm not good at it, but I'm getting better by the day. Sometimes I'll come in and I'll put my phone upstairs and I'll come back down and I just play with my daughter until she goes to bed. And that is what I do. Is it perfect? No, it's far from it. And I'm always working on being better. And that's it. That's the best thing I can say is it's a work in progress. Every day my journey begins.
Yeah, I love that. It's such valuable information, right? Because I think a lot of people are just trying to figure it out, And a lot of people are going to eventually get to a point where they're like you, and certain people will, and they'll have the money, and they'll, what happens, I think a lot of times in America, maybe abroad, is that people work their whole life to get money, and they sacrifice everything to get the money, right?
Yeah.
And then, including their health and their family and everything to get the money. And I've learned this. And then they get all the money and they spend the second half of their life spending all the money to regain their health back and try to go build a new family again and do the whole thing. And I'm 27, so I've already got, I was engaged when I was 21. That relationship didn't work, not as a result of that, but it just other things. And now I'm engaged again. And I'm trying to learn from guys like you and Devin and people that are older than me. Like, man, how do I juggle it all, right? Like, how do I build the companies and pay everybody and develop cool things and do cool things at the same time, not destroy the rest of my life at the same time,
The other thing that's important, and it's easy to do, and listen, I'm very fortunate. The first part of my life wasn't this grind. The first part of my life was living out my dream, literally. So I guess I had a tailwind going from that, but I still find time to go snowboarding. We were just in Mammoth. We were just ripping up in Mammoth. I go speak all over the country. So when I speak, I always leave one day to go surf, snowboard, and then in the summer, like back home, spring and summer, it's mandatory. Sunday mornings is skate time. I go to the park, I skate the bowl, I skate the pool, and that's I try to hurt myself.
Yeah.
When I feel the pain, I'm like, yeah, I'm alive. Wow. And then that refuels it. A lot of people think, oh, you got to go on these long, lavish vacations. Man, I just need like a day. Sometimes I just need a day to charge the jets up and charge the batteries, and I'm ready to go. Like, I don't need much more. And also too, you got to make sure in your business that you focus on a culture. Like with my organizations, like we have a lot of people. Every one of my people know what we make. They know what we're profiting. And if they don't, it's just because they're not paying attention. Because I'm open about it. I say, here's what we make. Here's our profits. This is how we're doing. And not only that, I'm very transparent about how I live and what money I'm putting back in so that my team sees the culture and sees what I'm giving, and I don't lead from the back. Man, I'm like the wolf. I'm out front. I try to lead from the front, and I do the hard work. And it's tough, man. Sometimes you get tired, but you just got to set that stage. And then when I come home, I try to do the same thing. My wife also is down. She understands what we're building. So, to have the things that she wants, like it takes this to make it happen. And she's down for the cause on that.
I love that.
Most days.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Nobody's perfect, right? So all you could do is just do your best. I love the culture thing, though. I love that, it took me a long time to figure that out. I screwed that up for probably 7 or 8 years, just hiring and firing and thought I was building a good culture, wasn't building. No, I wasn't intentionally building a bad culture, obviously. I just didn't know any better, and it took me a real long time to really figure the whole thing out, and I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but I'm certainly a lot further along than I was. And, we've got 65 or 70 people, 75 maybe internally, and incredible culture, man. I'll tell you what, I walk people through here every day, and the first thing they say when they walk around the corner is, man, this culture is just ridiculous. You could feel it in the air. You could smell it. You could hear it. You can see it. There's just no question about it. I've got dudes here that have done 1,000 deals that are, sales guys for us, and they could easily go do it on their own. They could easily go, 100%.
And in that business, normally they do.
Normally they do.
Built a culture that holds them here because they see the vision.
They see the vision. They totally see the vision. You pay them well. They know that there's other things, and you can create layers to it, right? It's like, we're not trying to just keep them in one position. It's like, hey, dude, like, we want you to, to go and rise to the occasion. And we just want to be a part of it with you, and obviously if they don't want to, that's okay too, but we bless them on the way out of the door. But
that's critical. Dude, listen, like when I walked in here, I felt it, but you always know when you walk into any company, the culture, and it because everybody in the organization wants everybody else to succeed first.
100%.
And that's when you built a company that will last.
Yeah.
If you build a company and everybody's just out for themselves, you built a company that will fail.
I agree, 100%. And how did you build that? And I know we're coming to a little bit of a conclusion here, but like, did you screw that up a bunch of times?
Oh, it's too many times.
Yeah.
Too many times. A trial and error, and I've failed my way to this point. I really have. I've failed so many times. I've built companies on all the wrong things. I've, in the Wall Street years, I focused on me. Like that's the culture in that business is me, make more, keep up with the Joneses. That guy got a new car, I got to get a new car. That's just what it was. And that was a failed model. Mm-hmm. So when I got into this, just by its sheer nature of what we do, we got to give. Mm-hmm. We got to give so somebody else can get. And just that from its start helps build the right kind of organization. And the other thing too that's tough is, when my sales team comes in, they're the money mentors. Like I tell them, like, you're going to be broke for a couple months because the commissions are so small. But the thing is as you start building it and building it and building it, and you hear how these people's lives are being changed, it just perpetuates and it goes faster and faster. And I remember when I first got into it, man, I didn't know how I was going to make it. I literally was just borrowing. I was trying to just make it because it was so hard. And then all of a sudden it started happening. It started happening faster and faster and faster. That's just the way the universe works. Like if you're chasing the quick buck, you're just not building a company that's going to last.
I love that. I know, dude, I could go for 3 more hours just for the record, but we'll cut it short because I know Devin's got somewhere to be, and I'm sure you do too. You're a busy guy. If you for some reason had to leave your daughter, she's 3, right? With one piece of advice, and it was going to be your last day, and it could be any piece of advice in the world, but for whatever reason, you could only give her one piece of advice that she would have to remember you by. What would that be?
That she would remember me by, or one piece of advice that she would live by?
One thing that she would live by that, like you couldn't give her 2 pieces of advice.
The piece of advice would be live your life to serve others. And I did a TEDx talk recently, and the TEDx talk is called Rethink Money, and it's a letter that I wrote to my daughter about exactly what you just asked me. It is literally a letter of lessons that she needs to learn throughout her life, which are the 6 laws of wealth, but done in almost a 5th grade level. And that was my TEDx talk. And anybody can watch it. Just, search Rethink Money, a letter to my daughter.
Wow, that's awesome. And the premise was, to your first initial point, is just serving, man. I love that so much, dude. I love that so much.
Because if I knew that, like I knew that growing up. That's what my mom did. But somehow I got off the path, man. I went down the bad path. Mm-hmm. If I just stayed that path, I don't know where I'd be today. A lot further ahead, way further ahead. But and we all have to find our way back on the path.
Yeah, a lot of times we got to go through the valley to appreciate the mountaintop, right?
Bingo.
Yeah,
bingo.
I love that,
love
man.
That.
I love that. Well, hey, Chris, where can people find you?
It's easy. I'm everywhere. Just search well, you can go any social media site. It's the Chris Naugle. It's Naugle, or just go to chrisnaugle.com. YouTube is my best platform. I create magic on YouTube, so check that out too.
Yeah, you got good editors. We got to give some to Devin.
Yeah.
I love it. Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time and being here. And next time you're in town, I could go for another couple hours, so we'll get you back on eventually.
I'm down, man. I'm here quite a bit. Thanks so much.
Bro. Yeah. Hey, if you're still watching, I greatly appreciate you watching. Go ahead and drop a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't already. Smash that like button. And if you're listening, it would mean the world if you would leave a 5-star review. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.